Welcome back, everyone. We are here today, part 2 of our Cabral HouseCalls, where I'll be answering 6 more questions from our community. Today is episode 2256. If you want to tune in and read along with the questions, you are welcome to. You can head on over to stephencabral.com/2256 to read along with all the questions. And of course, you know, all of the back podcasts that I may be referring to today are at stephencabral.com/podcast. And while you're over there, if you haven't already picked up a free copy of my book, The Rain Barrel Effect, I would love for you to be able to grab a copy for friends, for family, an extra copy for yourself if you'd like. I literally pay to print the book, and we just charge for shipping and handling. So that is it. So it is $7.95, which is actually, it charges a little less than it is for us to ship the book out. But our goal is to spread the mission of essentially what we do, which is helping people to heal by understanding how they got to where they are in the first place, by understanding that they need to replace their deficiencies and they need to remove their toxicities. And if we can get people understanding more about their health, I truly believe that we can change the world. We can change the way that people feel and the way that they heal as well. So that is my mission. That's my goal. And of course, feel free to share the book. Feel free to share the podcast with anybody you believe it would help as well. All right, let's get into today's questions. First question is from Tania. Tania says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm currently doing your IHP training. I wanted to know if you have any advice on the condition called chronic regional pain syndrome. I had an accident 4 years ago, leaving me permanently disabled in my left arm, hand, and shoulder after breaking my elbow, terrible triad, and I ended up with this nerve chronic pain, CRPS. I also developed anaphylactic reaction to seafood last year, and I love seafood. I believe it's related to CRPS. I would be eternally grateful for your advice or thoughts on this. Welcome, Tina." I don't know if it's Tina or Tania. It's Tennea, and then we have a Teena. So probably maybe Tina. All right, so let's answer your question. The first is, and again, it depends on, I believe you said that you had an accident, right? An accident, which is obviously always terrible and you know, too bad. And these things do happen. They happen to many, many people, unfortunately. But of course, it's how we deal with them. And I know that you're doing the best that you can. So, you know, you went through potentially surgery and you went through rehabilitation. I implore you to continue working on this with different practitioners that you've already worked with. You've gotten the most that you can out of the practitioner. Great. Doesn't mean they were good or doesn't mean they were bad either. That's what I wanted to say. But it does mean that let's look beyond. Let's look to people doing active release therapy. I would love for you to find someone like that. I would love for you to find someone that does maybe some integrative acupuncture. I would love you to look at someone that does maybe Graston technique to break up any fascia. That can be helpful. Again, not saying you're going to get back full mobility or even some, but let's just look at everything we can, okay? The second is that, you know, oftentimes, not always, but people with CRPS can have a remission of that pain. And many people do at some point, meaning like within years in their life. Doesn't always happen right away. What I've found is that a lot of this is due to overload of inflammation on the body, sometimes from excessive nervous system stimulation. So our job, I mean, again, if I were you, for sure, I'd run the big 5. You need to look at your deficiencies in your vitamin levels. You need to see if there's deficiency in mineral levels, deficiency in omega-3s. And then we need to look over here and say, okay, there are toxicities with gut-based issues, heavy metals, et cetera. We need to take care of those. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. And I have a very strong opinion that, you know, if you're able to, that you'd want to do this. And I know that you're part of IHP. So hopefully, I think you're going to do this for yourself anyways, which is great. So the next part is, once you balance your omega-3s, okay, once you balance your vitamins and minerals, your B vitamins, you do your detoxes, you're good. Okay, so now this thing about seafood. Well, here's the thing. This is not all seafood, believe it or not. It's not all seafood. Like things like salmon. So salmon can be super healthy for you because it has higher levels of omega-3s. Fantastic, right? We like that. Salmon can also have astaxanthin. Great, really powerful antioxidant as long as, of course, it's wild. The problem is, salmon, not all seafood. That's why I want to see if this is a salmon issue for you or if it's all seafood. But salmon can have very high levels of arachidonic acid. And some of the shellfish can also be inflammatory to some people as well. So if I were you, I would say, is this all seafood, or is this some of the things, some of the foods that I might have more of an issue with, the seafood that might create more histamines or leukotrienes in the body, the shellfish, or the salmon that might have higher arachidonic acid. And arachidonic acid, we know for sure, it can create more prostaglandins. Prostaglandin series 2, very, very inflammatory, which can actually lead then to more leukotrienes and cause more pain. So I want you to look into this. Obviously, it brings you down a bit of a rabbit hole, but it could be a big answer that you're looking for, all right? Thank you, Tina. Laura's up next. Hi, Dr. Brawl. I'm hoping you could talk about the extra ingredients in supplements, like different fillers and additives and preservatives, which ones we should be careful about, which different names do they use for some of the different substances. For example, citric acid is in lots of them, also lactic acid. What kind of capsule should it be on? Would love to buy extra clean supplements, but sometimes it's really difficult to get them, especially with the crazy prices. Thank you. Happy healing, everyone. Laura, thank you for writing in. Happy to answer this question. So some of the ones you want to look at are the things that don't really get absorbed and broken down by the body. Like one of those would be titanium dioxide. So ideally, you're staying away from titanium dioxides and a lot of the dioxides in general. Now, what I will say though, now that I've been in the manufacturing of these for like 6 years, I can tell you that, so let me break this down to a couple parts. Some of those need a magnesium or a new flow or something like that in order for all these ingredients not to stick together. So when you find a single ingredient supplement, it's typically, it's easy to do. It's easy to make. But when you see a product, what do I have on my desk right here? I always have some products. Okay, I have progesterone support on my desk right here. If you're watching this on video, of course, you can see me holding it up. And if you look in the back, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 ingredients. Okay, so 9 ingredients. So that's a lot. So you need something to make sure that you don't all of a sudden in one capsule have 80% black cohosh and then you only have a tiny bit of wild yam root, right? So there has to be an even amount based on the ingredients you say are in there. So when you look at ours, you say, well, instead of using some of these products, what does a healthy brand do? And so you look at, okay, other ingredients. What does this mean? Okay, well, we use a rice hull extract. So what does that mean? We, instead of using these more naturally chemicals, we're taking it, we're breaking these things down like a rice hull. And in this, like you might have less than a half a grain of rice. Like, so it's such a small amount in general, like it's such a tiny amount. But what you're doing is you're turning this to a powder and you're mixing it with the rest of the ingredients so that it layers properly. This is what I've learned. And then instead of using nasty fillers, we'll use something benign like some vitamin C, or we'll use leucine. Again, tiny, tiny amount to be able to get the right weight for the capsule. And the last part is the capsule itself. So we use, sounds like a big word, but it's called hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose. Well, a lot of companies who are not following the letter of the FDA law and FTC law just write vegetable capsule. Well, we use vegetable capsules too, except we always have truth in everything that we use. So we actually tell you exactly what these things are made out of, where most companies will just write vegetable capsule or they'll even write stevia. Well, technically, you're not using stevia, okay? Nobody uses stevia. They use an extract of stevia, usually called riboside A, or they can write, now their FDA is allowing people to write, I think like organic stevia extract or something like that. So here's the thing. Most people use the same exact stuff. It's the quality that they use, which is what's so important, because a lot of people also don't even label their label properly. For example, some products, and I don't want to get, I'm kind of going too deep down a rabbit hole, so I'll make this the last part. When you see a lactic acid or a citric acid, you need a preservative of some type so that product doesn't get moldy. All right. Now, not all products, right? I just named progesterone support, doesn't need it. Okay. Not really a food-based product. But in a food-based product, you need something to lower the pH so it does not grow mold or spoil. All right. So if you use a, let's say, citric acid, there is genetically modified citric acid from genetically modified corn, or there could be a non-GMO other form of citric acid used. If we use citric acid in a product, all of our products are 100% non-GMO. So we use across the line We use non-GMO products. So again, it's all about knowing the company. I really think that that's the best thing to do. And then you can start to go deeper and understand the ingredients. Honestly, I've given hour-long talks on the dangers of what a lot of people are putting in these products. And so hopefully that was at least a little summary to get started, all right? All right, Rachel's up next. Body odor. I sometimes find that I have very, very strong body odor in my armpits. It's not the normal BO smell. It's pungent, more like a strong gasoline smell. When it happens, it's almost as if I can't wash it off. Showering and washing my armpits helps lessen it, but the smell is still there. Any idea what the cause could be or how to rectify it? Thank you. Okay, I have many podcasts on body odor. So let's go to stephencabral.com/podcast and let's just type in body odor. BODYODO. Okay, body odor. All right, so we've got, let's see here, we've got one at 625, foul odor, 695, 729, and let's just see if that was the one. Oh, that's on feet. All right. And we got 870. And then we have 891. Excuse me. And then we have 989. And then we have 2172, 232. That one's on body odor. 562, 687, 1527, fishy body odor. 1751. 1927, 2045. And that one smell gasoline. Oh, no, that's different, though. That's for the scent of the nose. What I can tell you, though, just a quick summary, though, Rachel, because I do want to answer your question, is that this can be dropping into ketosis, okay? Not usually gasoline smell, but could be. Like, that's one way to describe it. Kind of an acetone-based smell. So when your carbs are too low and you're producing ketones, absolutely, you can have a body odor smell that's almost like a pine, and you can also have a halitosis smell of the breath. So that's one. Are you on a low-carb diet? All right, that's the first one. The second one, is there bacterial overgrowth? So gut-wise, and that can permeate being an issue as well for many people, many people. And the third is a detox issue. Those are the three main ones that I see. So in my opinion, if you're in a state of ketosis on a keto diet, then that's the easiest answer, right? The second one is we would run something like a Candida metabolic and vitamins test. That's easy enough. And then we could also do a 7, 14, or 21-day detox. And you can find details on that at stephencabral.com/detox. And we even have a free detox course as well at stephencabral.com/courses. All right, hopefully that's helpful to get started. Deborah is up next. Let's see, what does Deborah say? I have mast cell disease, hereditary alpha, I believe just an S was left out, tryptosemia syndrome, and intracranian increased hypertension, which causes debilitating migraines. I've done your detox, and despite the debilitating migraines getting worse, I stuck it out. I did the HERE migraine erase test and had to stop all supplements recommended for now. I was reacting to everything, especially the shakes high in vitamin A. Do you have any experiences in the mast cell issue or pseudo tumor? I would love to work together further. I'm a huge fan, desperate to heal. Deborah. Okay. Yeah. And I actually have a bunch of podcasts on mast cell issues. So Deborah, same thing, go to stephencabral.com and just type in mast cell, do a search there, and then also check out mastocytosis, do a search there. And then after that, do another search on histamines. So I personally have the same thing. Not necessarily hereditary alpha tryptosemia syndrome, and that's because you have to look at a specific gene for that. I never looked at the gene for it, but I had mastocytosis. So, and still to this day, like, don't get me wrong, in my genetics, I know for sure my body loves to produce inflammation from mast cells, specifically leukotrienes. I'm going to be doing an allergy show on this in the future, talking about how I was able to figure this out and what an issue is for people with migraines, etc. So your issue could be the same. What do you do? Well, for me, the most important thing is you heal your gut. That's the most important thing. So the most important thing I did was heal my gut. The second most important thing, I got my stress under control. And that was my pitta-based mindset. I mean, I go at 100 miles an hour now, but I was going at 1,000 miles an hour when I was younger. And so now I've just simply like throttled those gears down, and I do more for mindset and calming and all those things. But anyway, to make a long story just a little bit shorter, I healed my gut. So again, I recommend the Big 5 labs with the stool test as well, if possible. That's what I would do. And then once you heal your gut, doing something like the CBO protocol, plus the heal and seal. Again, you might not feel great doing it, honestly, because there's herbs and you're going to react to the herbs. So I totally get it. I totally understand. You're going to have to go gently. You're going to have to go easily, for sure. Again, I'm not making any medical decisions for you. I'm not giving you any medical advice. Always work with your primary care physician. But after that, again, you're working on calming the body and you're following a low histamine diet. I still follow a relatively low histamine diet, but not super low. I eat whatever I want. I mean, I really do. But again, I can tell you that if I eat a ton of histamines at one meal, it can start to become, or I could see it becoming an issue if I were to continue doing that, which I simply don't. So all of that to say is all of this is able to be gotten under control. It really is. I had terrible mastocytosis, and I can tell you for sure that it is able to be rebalanced. All right. Thank you, Deborah. Nick's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have 2 questions for you. One, I recently had a snowboarding accident where I hit my head and got a CT scan and an MRI, which showed a cavernoma in the back upper outer edge of my head. Do you have any natural remedies, advice for controlling or improving it? I've had no symptoms, and it was found incidentally. I'm 25 years old. My second question is, they told me I will need to monitor it probably 1 to 2 times a year with contrast and no contrast MRI. Should I be concerned with the gadolinium? I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that correctly, but I know what you're talking about, metal that's used to the contrast MRI. If so, would you have any alternative suggestions recommending non-contrast or any detox solutions you'd recommend if you think it's necessary? Okay. Totally understand where you're coming from. This is essentially an angioma that, on the outside of your skin, you're 25, so you probably haven't gotten any yet. But most people, by the time they get into your mid-30s and beyond, they get like these little red dots in their skin, and they can start to grow. And those are called cherry angiomas. There's all sorts of different names for them. But they're basically conglomerations of red blood cells that are growing on the skin. Well, it seems that these are the same things inside the brain. So brain and stem cell is me saying brem. That's what you're looking at, right? So here's the thing, though, because I've looked this up for other private wellness clients as well. And so for many people, a good amount, I know it's at least a quarter, have no symptoms ever. It's never an issue. Some have some symptoms, some don't. Now, here's the issue. Again, no medical advice, no medical treatment plans, no medical diagnosis. There has not been a lot of good data to support going every 6 months for an MRI. There's just not. You may feel symptoms in the future that then may cause you to have it removed if you chose to. However, this is what I always gave for recommendations for my private wellness clients. I'm going to give it for you. You may, if it was me, I'd say maybe I'm going to go every 2 years, all right, for an MRI. If I start to see it grow, well, maybe then I'll go more often. You're 25 years old. Again, but this is not medical advice for you. You're going to do what you feel is best when speaking with your medical doctors. The second is I'm going to do everything that I can to keep my overall body healthy. I'm going to do my functional medicine detoxes every season. I'm going to do a heavy metal detox once a year. I'm going to be on an overall anti-inflammatory diet. I'm going to run my Big 5 labs, or I'm at least going to do the things to keep my body balanced, like using the daily foundation protocol that includes my vitamins, my minerals, my omega-3s, right? So that's basically the advice I give people, and just be happy, live life, reduce stress, enjoy. All right, Karen's up next. Last question of the day. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I recently found your practice and I love what you do. My question is, my son joined the Navy and had extensive blood work done. He discovered that he has a high percentage of sickle cell trait. He was 1% from the Navy's limit. Are there health issues associated with a high percentage of this trait? Thank you so much, Karen. All right, Karen, happy to help. So I have some experience with working with clients with sickle cell, and in general, I work with lots of clients with anemia, thalassemia, and other blood-based issues. So happy to help here. I don't want to say that we're going to give you everything, all the advice we can in this one show. But what I can do is give you, I think, a really good foundation to build off of. So there's people unfamiliar with sickle cell, essentially anemia. I think it's around 8%, maybe upwards of maybe like 1 out of 10 maximum of African Americans that are affected with sickle cell. And it essentially, it's abnormal red blood cell formation in the form of a sickle, essentially. And so there's not as great oxygenation as there should be. So we have to be a little more careful when we're getting at altitude and flying. And we have to be a little bit more careful with blood clots and blood flow and circulation and oxygenation. So that's what we're looking at. And then there's 3 main types of sickle cell. I don't need to go through them today. I don't think that matters. I don't think Karen's as concerned, or if you are, there's sickle cell anemia, there's sickle cell hemoglobin C disease, and then there's sickle cell beta plus thalassemia, it's called. And again, I work with lots of clients with thalassemia. And then there's, I think there's another version called beta 0. And so what you're looking at is the different forms, what you're most affected for by those different forms. But I'll tell you, again, at the end of the day, what am I focused on? I'm focusing on making sure that your son has a good, healthy, functioning gut digestive system, that I'm making sure that he has all of his B vitamins that he needs, as well as calcium, magnesium, his omegas for the cell membrane, vitamin D, vitamin C, copper, and zinc in order to provide oxygen to the cells, right? B12, folate, calcium, magnesium, vitamin D and omegas for that membrane, and then zinc and copper. And that's going to help with that, right? So that's really what I'm talking about. It's like, okay, let's make sure that as much oxygen as we can get to these cells, the better, because even if some of them are misshapen, well, we want to make sure that we still can get as much oxygen as possible to those. And then we want to make sure, again, you're going to have to work with your doctor on this, that we're using something like omega-3s so that we are keeping the blood to a normal thin consistency, not overly thinned, of course. And we are taking the proper precautions, again, maybe at altitude or anything that might stress those red blood cells to a greater degree. So hopefully, Karen, that's a good place for you to get started. I'm always happy to do follow-ups. So again, thank you for submitting the question. Thank you so much to our community. You are all amazing. You are the best. I appreciate you. And I'll be back tomorrow with our Mindset of Motivation Monday. Take care, everyone.